All right. I'm so happy to be here. Sorry, I'm late. Internet in Germany is she's not a lucky lady, but we're opening both Jazz in Europe and Speaking My Piece tonight with a joint episode with one of to say that closeness or there's this strong feeling of brotherhood will be a gross understatement. Um, Please meet one of the most incredible musicians on the scene right now, Nduduzo Makhathini. Nduduzo, you here?
Dekel Bro, so great to be here, man.
Hey,
How are you, man?
Man, I'm happy to see you. How's your family? Everybody's well?
Everyone is well, man. I just got back, and yeah, man, it's
What an amazing European tour.
it was beautiful, man. Something about improvisation as well, improvising both the sound and the personnel was interesting to play with people I've never worked with before. It's just like improvising beyond the sonic, but just improvising as a way of being. It's been amazing, man.
I feel what you're saying 100%. I'm doing this Bach album I'm about to finish,
Wow.
where sometimes I feel like I don't have to take a solo because there's so much improvisation in creating the context or phrasing the Bach differently each time that I don't always feel like I have to solo.
Man, of course, man. It's I think there are multiple ways we could think about improvisation. And I'm learning more and more about this letting go as really one of the things, the fundamental ideas. And this is kind of what I sense in your work as well, man. This afternoon, for this live, I was listening to your record, man, again, I listened to it last year, so I picked it up again, man. I was just like, something, man, something happens,
What do you mean by what is it to you when you listen to it?
Man, for me, it sounded like, man, there's a lot of emotion on that album, man. There's something that just carried me in the album. It carried me in a very difficult time. Like who was saying off air that like, our albums come at a very interesting time. But I think there's something in the sound that had to be released at that particular point. There's something that humanity needed. And man,
did you have any thoughts about delaying your release due to COVID hitting? Was that a thing at all or nothing?
No, man, everything was lined up. Like, I think my album was released in April. I think yours too. So like, I had just come back from tour. I was in Vienna with the Jazz at Lincoln Centre. And man, when I came back, everyone was talking about this. And I was going to stay for a couple of weeks and travel to the US. So there was no way the singles had started coming out with Blue Note, and there was no way I could step back, man. So I just had to let it be, man.
I remember we had that talk if we should postpone it, because we all thought that this is going to be like a 2-month thing or a 1-month thing or a 3-month thing. And I actually talked to a good friend of ours, Aaron Parks. I talked to him. He released at the same time. And I remember saying, he said to me that he thinks that people need music now more than ever. And that really resonated with me. And that kind of started this whole experience for me of looking at music in an even deeper way, I think, because
of course,
because I know that for me, music gets me through the day every day, not just through difficult times, even through happy times. I mean, it really gets me through every day. And I'm really feeling, I was just jogging today, and I walked past this guy who seemed like he wasn't well.
Oh, man.
And he seemed like he was homeless or not healthy. And but it was cranking music really loud and singing with it.
Oh man.
And you could see that he has a really strong relationship with it, that it means so much to him. And
man.
I feel the same way. I mean, I really do. I feel like, I mean, I want to crank it up, especially being a guitarist. You always want it to be loud. and it kind of gets you through life in a very, very special way. And it's amazing to me to see that. What was it like for you? Like, how did you spend, I mean, you're a father, so that's a different story. How did you spend that whole year?
Man, the year was interesting. Right at the beginning, of course, I was meant to do an album launch at Dizzy's to kind of like launch the album officially. And so me and my wife here at home and the kids, we're spending every second together. And so I looked around and I was like, man, so we have the piano here. You sing. Our kids are, hey?
You practice at home with the children and the family, everyone there?
Everyone is here, man. So then my kids are really good with tech and lighting and everything and cameras. So I wrote this email to Universal and Blue Note. I was like, I'm doing my album launch at home, online. So I'm not changing the date.
That was a special thing.
Yeah, man. So we just put lights here and everything together. But man, post that moment, there was like a deep thing with looking outside and inside. First of all, like you speak about this music as creating homes and like this homelessness as being transcended via the sound. I felt the same way. It was like there was a way of living inside the sound completely that I had not maybe explored outside of ritual ceremonies when I was growing up. But there was a sense where the jazz transition started to feel like, okay, maybe I was not viewing music the same way. So this was one of the beautiful things that happened. This kind of restart.
I'm gonna stop you right there. So you had a moment that you discovered jazz?
Yeah, man. So
what was
it was by chance, man. I grew up in a very musical space and so brought up in all kinds of indigenous musics. And when I went to study music, I wasn't intending on studying jazz. I just went into a program. And of course, like a month later,
what did you play in the program?
So I was studying piano, and I was so looking forward to studying that I didn't care about like the contents that much. And so until they gave me, I think they gave me Yatbet Suit, man. And I was like, this is difficult music. And so I was starting to feel, okay, man, maybe this is not what I wanted to do. And there was this moment, I was really feeling discouraged and everything. And I went to the music library and I was listening to many records and just like playing for 10 minutes and putting a different one. And then, man, I had acknowledgement, like the stats of A Love Supreme. My life changed, bro, because it was the first time I listened to an entire jazz record and finished it, like from beginning to end, nonstop.
I feel the same way, and I think the biggest album in my life is A Love Supreme. I feel exactly the same way. I mean,
there we go, man. There we go, man.
Did you have a moment of choosing the piano as an instrument?
Not really, but my mom played. And she used to have this piano really locked up. Like she only played on Sundays, and the rest of the time will be locked up. And so I used to look over her shoulder, and I was a naughty kid, I'm not sure, but like I wasn't paying attention to the sound, but I got attracted to shapes. So my first memory of the piano was like shapes. Yeah, and this one Christmas, it was left open, and I just went and played. And she gave me the keys from that day. She's like, when did you learn all of this? I was like, it's just shapes.
The key.
And that was the moment, man.
I remember I don't know if I ever told you this, but my dad is a percussionist.
No, you didn't, man.
He's
Wow.
the principal percussionist for the Israel Philharmonic for 40 years, and he's like the Mr. Percussion in Israel. And
Wow.
he just performed. We got married. I think I told you that we got married like 2 weeks ago. He performed an African drum ceremony at the wedding.
Oh man, the pictures looked amazing, man. I want to hear the sound now.
I'll send you a video of the drum thing. So I grew up into it, but I kind of took it for granted because music was there 24/7 music.
Yeah.
So it was just like food and TV. You don't think that that's something it's just part of life.
Yeah.
And I went on this trip to the desert, to a very, very ancient place in the desert, and someone took out a guitar, and he just played like, and I was like, wow.
Oh man.
I mean,
Whoa.
I had my whole life appearing before my eyes. And I remember coming home and telling my parents I want to take some guitar lessons. And then after about 4 lessons, I'm 14 or something, I'm a kid, and I go down the stairs and I tell them, listen, I want this really specific, super expensive guitar, and don't waste time, because this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Just let's get it now. I know this is it. I don't need anything else.
Oh man, you went in really deep. Like you just felt it, man.
Yeah. And and I'm kind of still that way. I kind of still feel that I don't really need anything else. I mean,
wow.
I know a lot of people, they have other interests.
Of course.
Of course. I mean, I'm kind of fine sitting at home playing records all day, or practicing all day, or having 9-hour rehearsals. I'm happy. I don't need.
Man, I'm the same. Although mine moves between. I love to watch a lot of documentaries on music. I love to listen to people talk about what they're thinking that takes them to the sound. So I listen to a lot of people like Wayne Shorter. I listen to a lot of Sandra. And then I love to listen to records as well, like forever. Like there are records that I've listened to for many years, and I just keep going back.
Give me 2 or 3 that you just jump to mind.
Man, I've already spoken about A Love Supreme, the Cologne concert, Keith Jarrett. Man, there is also another album called Star Sitting by Begum Selig, who was my teacher, and this album features Charlie Hayden and Billy Higgins. It's man, truly an amazing album. But I also go back to a lot of the Dewey Redman, Keith Jarrett stuff in the 70s with Paul Motian.
That is something that I think everyone that I speak to, we talk about that band. I mean, I just spoke to Rosenwinkel, and one of the things that we talk, it's like, let's check this specific album, and it always comes back to those 5 albums on Impulse.
Man, those albums are so important, man. And for me, I remember this one time listening to Keith Jarrett speak about this young musician that was always chasing him for a lesson. And so eventually Keith Jarrett says, okay, cool, you can come. And what he says to him is like, so this guy is like, man, I want to play like you. And so he says, man, why would you want to kill yourself? But man, much later I realized how profound that is, in a sense that like to play like Keith Jarrett means such a deep level of engagement, even physically, spiritually, all dimensions, man. And that's what I kind of sense with you as well. It's like you engage in this ritual, man, on the recording. It's like,
I feel the same way with
man,
you.
I hear you start like these very subtle scats. Man, it's so high, man. It's beautiful, man.
Man, that means so much coming from you, really. It means so much to me.
Man,
But
I enjoyed it, man. It's
but I feel the same way when I hear you. I don't hear I don't hear piano, and
yep,
I don't hear
yep.
jazz, and I don't hear phrasing. I hear
Yeah.
this soul that's speaking to me.
Oh man.
And I get that, and I think that's, I mean, when people ask me, who do I listen to from our like kind of like age group, I always talk about you and Aaron. I mean, as far as piano,
Oh
it's
man.
people that really create something that is completely original. I mean, completely personal.
Oh man. Personal, yeah, man. And I think that's the power really of improvisation, man. You know, this letting go, man. I learned a lot about it last year, and also I was thinking about that and stillness. It's like, what does it mean now to kind of like project from this place that is so still, but also that with the conflict that is happening outside, because everyone was inside their homes, but there was so much conflict and difficulty going on outside.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking, man, how do we produce sounds from this kind of shift? And I think it shows up a lot in my recent, well, my upcoming album, but also the concepts.
So you recorded a new album already?
Yeah.
Tell me all. I want to hear about it.
So, you know, I think it just was a build up from this level of resistance, refusal. There was a sense in me that I was saying, I'm not going to stop playing, man. You know, like with everything going on. I remember I got this call from the great Wynton Marsalis saying, this was just 2 days before lockdown in South Africa. And he was like, man, don't give up. And, you know, we have to play music more meaningfully now. And he said, we have this festival that we're putting together called Music for Our Cultures or something like that. It was created by the Jazz at Lincoln Centre. And man, he said, can you go and record something? And I was like, oh man, it's locked down tomorrow. So I took a risk, left my city with the chance of not being able to get back because like everything was closing. But I did it. But I think from that moment, I realized that I want to do it. And I did so many concerts, man, last year. And I wrote so many songs, tons and tons of songs.
Wow.
So I was like, let me just record. So that's how really it came about, man.
So where did you record it? Where did you record it?
So it ended up being recorded in Cape Town. Because just before the recording, there was these riots. I was supposed to go to the US. It was not working. Tried getting some US cats to come down here. But what was going on politically here just scared everyone. So, but man, it's a good thing. I got to record with young musicians, all of them almost 15 years younger than me.
This is great. It's
beautiful, man. And you know, so the project really looks into what constitute being, you know, in a deep way. Like, what are these things that are evident in everything, in sound, in being, in laughter, in sadness. Man, I think it's a very powerful record, man. I can't wait to share it.
Do I have a release date? Is there a release date?
Yeah. I have a release date, but I don't think I can remember it from the top of my head, but it's in April. April.
Man, I can't wait to get it. I can't wait to get it, really.
Man, but tell me something. So I know that like you recorded an album 2007, right?
Yeah.
Then I
don't talk about. So
then you had an accident, right?
So I had an accident. I don't talk about it because it's just so insane. I mean, that I was this very, very dedicated motorcycle rider. I was actually supposed to go a week after the accident. I was supposed to go to Cape Town with Jackie Jonette. And I don't know if you notice, Jack also rides motorcycles. Like, he's a serious...
No, I didn't know.
Yeah. So we were planning to take one day just for riding motorcycles. But anyways, so I had this accident, and there's no easy way to put it, but I broke my back and my shoulder, and my hand and my ribs. I mean, they had to reattach my back to my spine. But to make this, what was the most symbolic is the two of my fingers were literally cut off and put back into my hand.
No.
Now, now imagine you see that in the press release for the album. So, so I literally had about a year and a half of just playing down, up, down, up. And I had to learn how to use my hand again. I had to learn how to walk again, and then how to use my hands again. I still only eat with a spoon. I don't eat with a fork. It's like hospital behavior. But so I don't talk about it because it's just so insane.
Oh, man, I understand, bro.
That that if I talk about it, no one would listen to the music. It will all be around the fingers.
Of course, man. I understand.
So,
but there's so much depth in it. When you would come back to your album last year, because I feel it, man. I think there are 2 songs that feature a singer, man.
Yeah.
Man, I feel everything, man. I feel, man,
that means so
it's
much.
like
that means so
it's
much.
like that, man. You are able to create a very peaceful. I mean, like as the title suggests, love is really there in that album, man. It's.
I actually feel that accident changed my life for the better. Completely changed my life. I mean, everything is better. Everything is better since the accident. Everything is different and everything is better, but it really all comes down to loving life and enjoying life and being thankful for it. Because I really had to kind of choose it and fight for it for a minute. And so yeah, that is the gap in between those albums. But I will say this, that I had unbelievable partners in presenting the music and not presenting the story. I mean, I remember when I told Ropeadope, which I have the most insanely great label in the world, that I want to release the album and not talk about the story.
Yeah.
And they were, sure, we get it. And then we had Gibson, the guitar company, they would schedule talk shows. Talk shows and talk about being in a difficult situation, because everybody I know was in a difficult situation at some point. You know what I mean? There's no real heroism here. It's just bullshit. So so I figured that I'll do this album, and then we're gonna release the Bach album in March.
Beautiful.
If I finish it in time. And then I'm recording another pre-album in March in New York and in Nashville. And after that, I think if the music will speak for itself, great. And if it's not, then I'm going on talk shows. Bullshitting my ass. But
man,
it means a lot coming from you, man.
There's a very awkward relationship between events and how people think about sound going forward. So in my native language, they use this term a lot of like, this and this happened, then we broke into sound. So I feel like there's this idea of a break, that something has to break, man, for sound to really make.
I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
In the motherland, from your experience,
yeah,
how do you view music? I mean, what role does music play in people's lives? Because I'm keep getting a feeling that there are things that you can experience there.
Yeah.
Spiritually and personally, and also, and of course, musically, that I don't think you'll be able to get anywhere.
Man, it's true. I think of course, modernity tells us something about the connection between music or art and aesthetic, like it's something beautiful, something that should be enjoyed. Of course, there is a dimension of that. But in very early histories of music and how people encountered it in the continent was that music had functionality. So, for instance, I was telling this story to the band when we were traveling that, like, my mother asked me this one time about, like, singing rain songs. It's like, why are you singing a rain song?
I was just going to ask you about this. So when I just got in New York, I got an invitation to join Reggie Workman's band, who is one of my all-time heroes.
Whoa, and that's massive.
He would talk about this a lot. He would say that working with African musicians, that he learned that music can shift consciousness in every way.
Yep, of course, man.
And I think as you say, in modernity or in modern culture or mainstream culture, whatever that means, people expect music to either uplift you or be sad, be happy. They look at it in such a small packaged way, but
narrowed. Yeah.
He would say that people would sing songs to bring the rain. People would sing songs to bring a baby. People would sing songs.
Course. So that's exactly it, because like the way I was brought up was like you couldn't just sing a rain song any other time. You only sing a rain song when you want it to rain, or when a new child is born, you sing that particular song. So when I went to study music eventually, I was like struggling with this relationship about why are we playing these songs? What is the function of these songs? And I realized that while modernity has like produced a whole different relationship with the sound. And what I do now in my work is like, I try to realign that functionality. Like a lot of my music really deals with notions of divination in like, how do we seek meanings that are residing elsewhere? We've lost a lot of people in this time, and part of African spirituality is that people continue to live. And so I've been searching, like I lost my father some years ago, and I've been thinking about like, man, how do I stay connected, And I've dedicated songs to him. In fact, the last album is called Letters from the Underworlds. It's like, when I dream, when I hear these melodies, for me, I see them as these letters that are sent from elsewhere to kind of like help us to navigate life in this realm, man. So this deep connection about function and sound is really the thing for me.
I strongly feel everything you're saying. I mean, one of the reasons that I went back into playing Bach throughout the year of COVID, I think came from connecting to my dad. I mean, it was always at home, but and we missed him very much, and we were kind of secluded in Berlin, and there was nowhere to go. We were in lockdown for 9 months, man. I mean, insane.
Crazy,
man. But I strongly feel that there's a dimension in music, and it appears in all forms of music. But I feel it much more so in jazz, that if the rhythm section cooks in a certain way, and I think that's something that's a bit lost from our generation onwards. I mean, I really seeked out opportunities to play with the elders, and they they would play so much more simple in a very on the surface way, but in a deeper way, they played in the most complex ways. And
precisely.
If I would play with Billy Hart or with Charlie Persip or with Louis Hayes, cats that are not that are often overlooked now in modern times, but they would make the rhythm section move, and in a way that if you could get connected with it, like the way you would ride a wave, then you could completely shift time and consciousness. And I think I got, I don't, listen, there's the only people that I can talk about this with are probably you and Logan, and that's pretty much it. But, but I really, really feel that if you learn, and I'm really working hard at learning, that's why I'm asking you about it.
Sure.
If you could learn how to kind of widen the gap, then you could then you could change dimensions. You could move through dimensions. And
of course,
I think it's very, very clear in people like Billy Higgins, or people like, I mean, he would just play quarter notes, nothing else, and you would hear 4/4, 2/3, 6/8, 8/8, all in quarter notes. And but I think you heard it in Coltrane, you heard it in Charlie Hayden and Keith Jarrett, you heard so many of the heroes, and that's kind of something that I kind of hear from you. But I really getting a feeling that, like, if you could listen to Anders Schiff play Bach in a very small room, no amplification, just very small room, or if you hear Glenn Gould or Dylan Kramer play Bach, or if you would hear, I hear that a lot of vocalists, like if you could hear it in the room with no mics, that there's this physical event that happens, because sound is a physical phenomenon.
Of course.
That I feel that it could heal diseases and it could bring rain. I really, really feel this way. I just don't know yet how to practice it, if that's even a possibility. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
So man, there's a beautiful paper that was written. I must think of the author. I'll send it to you. But Jared tries to speak about this very difficult phenomenon of differentiating between objective sounds and subjective sounds. So his argument is that, like, the music is constantly happening, and an improviser is someone with an ability to walk into the music very spontaneously, And on the one hand, there's this music that is subjective, that we want to play particular functions. But my reading of what he says is that, like, everything is built through the same concepts as sound anyway. So everything is built on this frequency and vital force, And if we can tap into those dimensions, I think there's a lot that we can change in terms of, like, our consciousness. I think about putting this album out last year. So the first single came out in 2019, and it was talking about the coming of sickness. And of course, like, I didn't know why I had to write about it. I didn't know why I had to write about that, but it was a message that was coming from a dimension, and I was translating.
Exactly. I mean, exactly.
Man, so I think jazz also teaches us that more than any other genre, in a sense that with jazz, it's funny, we always speak about the head solos and the head out. And I've been thinking about, like, the known, which is the theme that we play, the unknown, which is this kind of surrender into this dimension that is almost suspending time, and the head out is this kind of new knowing. Because there is always a sense that you feel like you know the head differently after playing your improvisation. When you go back to the head, it feels different. And in a lot of rituals here, rites of passage, they use the same thing. You move from the known to the unknown to the new knowing. And I think jazz as a matrix is meant so many parallels between rituals and jazz and how we play this music.
Absolutely. But I really feel that I need to kind of go on tour with you for a couple of months just to kind of
Me too, man.
dive into that world, because I'm just kind of finishing a year of just playing Bach every day and playing Coltrane like crazy, and it's just so much. There's just so many structures to everything, and I'm also improvising on the Bach. So I'm to learn how to improvise on it. I transcribe it by ear, and then I write it down, and then I transpose some things. So I really inherit it, and so it's not a visual thing.
Wow.
So I can speak the language and not play the notes. So
wow. Are you doing this as a solo project, like alone?
Yeah. I'll send you a couple of tracks, but so everything is just so it's been such a let's dive into. There's just so much brain activity that I really feel that I kind of need to swipe the page clean after this.
Yeah.
I don't know, after this year, and just play super simple things, and just look for the soul of things, and not that is less detail oriented. Let's put it this way.
Man, you know, it's funny, man, because like earlier on you were talking about the elder musicians and how they use simplicity that can be very complex to kind of attain at the same time.
Yeah.
I think, man, there is that as well. The trio playing on your record is man, I wonder like how many people have really listened to it, that writers, because I think there's so much to learn about like the whole idea of a trio, and particularly you and how you improvise in the trio setting. The freedom, man, that comes with playing trio is insane.
I've been going through a very, very personally important to me process of freeing myself of structure. So
I hear you, man.
And by that I mean that I would always keep the form and the harmonic progressions, but to not. I mean, we always talk about being free harmonically, but we don't talk a lot about being free metrically, and we don't talk about being really free melodically.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
I put a lot of work into being free metrically. And
man.
I really think that it's going to be very evident on the next couple of albums, because it just took me so long. But I feel that on Let Love Rule from last year, you can already hear that.
Of course.
I think it's starting to come out, but I'm really hoping to make more progress with it. It's just, I don't believe that that life behaves in 4/4 or only in 7/8 or I don't think it just it's water always flows to where they can flow. That's it.
Yeah. Man, I think that connects a lot with like this notion of elasticity. I've experienced this a lot with Luke Mill Perez, this drummer I played with now, but I experience it a lot with Logan as well, man. This kind of elasticity where the chords are there, but we also thinking about how those chords are moving. So there's a sense in which when we think about harmony, we think in this kind of way, this vertical, but there's a sense in which chords could move both ways, both directions. And that's the elasticity, man. I love to play like that because every gig sounds different, every moment sounds different.
Yeah, I think there are not a lot of people that I feel this way, that you can hear that it could move in any direction. It's like a bird flying and there's no course. It's there's true freedom. But I don't think I know a lot of people that really. I think Keith and Ornette and
Ornette.
I don't know a lot of people. I think Pat Metheny, you get that.
He's beautiful, man.
Where it could shift direction in the most incredible ways. Sonny Rollins, obviously. I actually think Wynton Marsalis has that.
Yeah, he does. He does, man.
That it really but there's not a lot of people that you can hear true freedom in the direction of phrasing. I'm sorry, let me.
Man,
I have some interruption here.
No problem.
So I don't know if I told you, but I have a daughter from Congo. Did I tell you?
Oh man, from Congo.
Yeah, she's from Congo. We keep promising her that we'll take her to meet her parents at some point, but she says that.
Wow, that's so beautiful, man.
She's amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. She's also absurdly magical in the way she improvises. Like you would put on a record, and she will improvise on things she doesn't know precisely on key. And if there's a chord change, she usually goes to the chord change. Unbelievable.
Oh,
unbelievable.
That's incredible.
Nothing short of unbelievable.
Oh man. Man, when you're speaking about phrasing and all of these things and like this elasticity, I'm reminded as well of a lot of singers, man, actually, I think have it. Here at home, we listen to a lot of A.B. Lincoln, man. And it's in making those decisions, man. She specializes on singing the most beautiful endings as well. Like, man, I've never had anyone that forces me to listen to the song right to the end because she does something special all the time. But that elasticity.
I would also ask a lot of people that have played with her, like Alvesta Garnett or Clarence Penn or Mark Carey, and they would always say that that you had to be really, really alert at the ending of the song. Super alert.
There we go. Because she ends on serious tensions as well, like sometimes. And so for a pianist, if you really play a wrong chord in the end, I think you don't get the next gig.
For me, A.B. Lincoln was always about sound. I would hear the sound of her soul, and that would crush me. And I almost didn't need anything else.
Man, she was something else. And I think her background in acting as well, just in terms of writing lyrics, man, there's a song called Down Below. She writes these heavy lyrics. I love Throw It Away as well.
Throw It Away, yeah, I love that song.
Have you had a Matt Carey? He's my big bro, man. I love him so much with Matt. And man, he's done an A.B. Lincoln album, solo piano.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it so much, man. I love it so much. Yeah.
Any other albums you want to recommend to people who might be watching this?
Oh man, there's a lot, man. Here in South Africa, man, there's so many beautiful records, man. There's an album called Movements by Anda Sikade, who's a great drummer here. There's an album called Codes of Light by Linda. There's an album called Utsingolengo Sazana by Omagugu. There's an album called Queen Nandi, which is by Umgidi. We put together this really big ensemble of two pianists, myself and African Kize, two drummers, Pelelo and Ayanda.
That I heard. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's massive, man. It's like everything is doubled. Like, so, man, there's a lot of beautiful music, man, coming from everywhere, really, man. I'm just, man, every day I go on the net and I'm like, wow.
Was it difficult to get records in South Africa before the internet? When you were like 15, you wanted to get a Lee Morgan album. Was it possible?
Yeah. Man, so in the 1930s already, because South Africa has a lot of pots. So that's how people learn jazz here. They learn from listening to records. So the culture of recording, collecting jazz records in South Africa dates as far back as 1930s.
Wow.
So there's always been that culture, man. And the jazz in South Africa, the jazz aesthetic started developing at that time. It's just that there aren't enough books talking about that. But there's a book called In Township Tonight that talks about that. There's another one called Soweto Blues that talks about that. There's another one called Marabi Nights that talks about that. These three seminal texts. But man, yeah. Except when I was 13, I was not thinking jazz, of course.
I always have this relationship with books that I keep buying them and reading them, books about music, but I always feel that it talks about the life of music rather than music itself. And that's something that is something that we try to do with these talks on Jazztimes, to talk about the heart of the matter and not about the surroundings. Because I love one of the books that I actually grew up on, the Miles book and on the Billie Holiday book, and then and there was a couple of great ones by Wynton, great books, but it was all about the life of a musician. And which kind of reaffirms to me that what I feel very strongly is that music is such a force of nature, like light or like fire or like water.
There we go, brother.
It exists in everything. You cannot talk about music. You cannot write about music. Only music can be about music.
So Anthony Braxton says something similar to what you just said. He explores these formulas. What are they called? Trizems, something. So he's got like essays that he writes. And then, so there was one he wrote about African music where he's trying to think about long sounds on like a meditative thing, suspended sounds and blah, blah, blah. And then in the last paragraph of this, of this paper, after writing, he says, African music can never be known, but can only be experienced, after writing about it. So to your point about we cannot really write about it.
I feel exactly the same way. Man. Man, I'm gonna end with this note. I'm gonna go make my wife dinner. Man, I can't wait for our next gig. It's long overdue. And I can't wait to get the new album in April. And I'm hoping it's coming out of vinyl. And
they promise at least.
There you go. And for anyone who's been watching, Nduduzo has an amazing album on Blue Note. Make sure you get it. My album we've been talking about is Let Love Rule, out on Ropeadope Records. I want to thank Jazztimes and Shure Microphones for hosting today's experience. Next week, we're going to be playing live from Berlin with Reinhard Kolom, one of the most incredible trumpet players in Europe. And we can't wait to have you. And please leave a comment. We'll make sure to answer it, and keep in touch and be safe. And we hope to see you real soon. Man, I love you. I can't wait to see you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Bro, I love you so much, man. Let's play soon.
We're doing it. Bye-bye.
Blessings, bro.
Bye-bye.